Welcome back. Holding big technology accountable, the Justice Department is moving forward to completing an antitrust investigation into Google, which is expected to end with a lawsuit this summer. Meanwhile, the House Judiciary Committee undergoing its own investigation into Google, Apple, Amazon, and Facebook. On Sunday Morning Futures, I spoke with California Congressman Devin Nunes about this and his lawsuit against Twitter and how big tech is working to control information. Tell us why you believe that tech tyranny is one of the most important issues going into the November election.
Google, Facebook, and Twitter, okay, they're the tech oligarchs. They're tech tyrants. They're taking all of this content that, 90% of the news media is not only left-wing, but it's owned now by billionaire left-wingers. When you plug that content into those three giant tech companies, it's really starting to have an influence and an effect on the politics in this country. Republicans and conservatives are being driven out and off of that internet superhighway.
Joining me right now is Fox News senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Judge, good to see you. The conflicts are only getting bigger in terms of government versus big tech here. How do you see it?
Well, I don't see this as an antitrust violation, and the news reports over the weekend that the Attorney General, Bill Barr, has directed the Antitrust Division to draft some sort of an antitrust complaint against big tech and argue that their exclusion of conservative, libertarian, socially conservative voices from their platforms somehow violates the antitrust laws. Now, antitrust laws are violations of economic principles. Any contract or combination, meaning they'd have to do this in concert with each other, in restraint of interstate trade that affects prices would be an antitrust violation. But they're going to run into, that is, the DOJ, if they do this, are going to run into a brick wall called the First Amendment, because this is all about speech. We may not like the judgment calls that Mark Zuckerberg will make or that Twitter makes, but they have the freedom to do so, and the government cannot interfere with that freedom. The best thing that, and I share a lot of Congressman Nunes's complaints. I myself, as far as I know, have not been taken off, but I have friends who have. The remedy under antitrust laws is more competition. The remedy is not government regulation of speech. That's what I think the courts would do with any effort by the DOJ to get involved.
Judge, they call themselves platforms, and they have not been acting like platforms. It's not a platform that you've got all this different speech on that platform, right? Because they are deciding not to put conservative speech there. So if you're not a platform, then you would expect that they would lose that protection, that they can't get sued.
Well, the protection that they have is from a statute, and quite frankly, there's angst on both sides of the political aisle over whether that statute should exist. The statute basically says, as you've just indicated, they're a platform, they're a bulletin board, so you can sue the person who posts the message, but you can't sue the entity that hosts the message. If they continue to crush one side of this argument, they may lose that protection, but that would require not judicial intervention, but a vote of the Congress, and it may very well happen. But right now, all the equities are on their side because this is all about speech and politics, and the government has no role interfering in private speech, particularly political speech.
All right, Judge. That's why Devin Nunes is pushing Parler.com as an alternative to Twitter. Judge, thank you. We will see you soon. Judge Andrew Napolitano joining us there.